Okay, guys and gals, get excited because today's video is gonna be freaking awesome! So awesome that I don't know, I'm wearing like cat ears or something. Don't ask, don't ask. I just thought it would be thematic with the video. Today's video, as you can see from the title, because you know how to read, is a Geek Girl tag. I wrote all these questions with the help of my very good friend, Kristen, My Life as a Teacup. I'm not sure if there are other Geek Girl tags out there. There probably are. I have not searched, I'll be honest. But I really wanted to do this Geek Girl tag for a couple of reasons, because I am a geek girl. Duh, if you haven't noticed. And two, I thought it'd be really fun. And three, Kristen, My Life as a Teacup, who is my geek girl buddy, she has been doing more YouTube videos recently, so I wanted to celebrate her, like, YouTube-ness by doing something that, like, we both could do that would be really fun. And she's been helping me with these questions, and it's been a little bit in the making, but here it is, Geek Girl tag. Now, when we wrote these questions, I was trying to basically encompass every facet of geekness. And this isn't just like geek girl tags. I guess a boy could do this too. But I mean, come on, it's more fun. There's enough geek boys out there. There should be more geek girls letting their geek flags fly, really. That's what I think. So when I wrote the questions, I was basically trying to like encompass every possible fangirl like sect that there could possibly be for like everything. So some of these questions are franchise specific, like they're specific to a specific book or world or show or something like that. And some of them are like more open-ended so that you can answer technically with like anything from any show. So let's just go ahead and begin because I've got 10 questions here and I know I'm going to be rambling. So let's begin. Question number 1. This one's an easy one. What's your must-have tech gadget? I had to throw that in there because that's part of being a geek girl too, is being like technologically savvy, I feel like. So my must-have tech gadget is my iPad, the regular size one. I have the 3rd generation iPad, largey, not mini. And I love that because I really think that if I had to pick one gadget, like for the rest of my life to use, it would be that. I could get away with it because I can use my clam case and it can be like a little MacBook Air so I could write and you can take pictures and you can edit photos through apps and you can play games, you can go on the internet and you can check Instagram, you can do everything on an iPad. So my must-have tech gadget is an iPad, regular size. I do have a mini as well, and I do like my mini for different reasons, but I would want the regular size to be my must-have tech gadget. Question number 2. Which house do you belong to in Hogwarts? This is a really easy question for me. I've known the answer to this question forever, and I proudly tell people that I am a Slytherin. If you've ever met me, if you haven't met me, maybe you can tell from my videos. I don't think you can tell from my videos. I am totally a Slytherin. My husband is a Hufflepuff. People think it's weird that a Slytherin married a Hufflepuff, but, you know, weirder things have happened. I'll tell you a really funny story really quickly. This is going to be the longest video ever in the entirety of all the videos I've ever done, but I'm going to tell you a story. My husband and I, for our honeymoon, we went to Disney World and we went to Universal Studios so we could go to the Harry Potter world, and that was a couple of years ago. We were waiting in line to get into Ollivander's so we could, you know, we didn't really want to buy wands, but we wanted that whole Ollivander's experience. So we went, and we were waiting in line forever, and there were, you know, like ushers around, people that were, you know, helping customers, you know, like people who were helping visitors, people that work for Universal, and they were dressed up like students of Hogwarts. And the girl that came up to us was a Slytherin, and she was chatting with us, and we were talking, and we weren't talking about what house we belonged to, but me and my husband and her were talking, and she says to him, she goes, "She's a Slytherin." And I'm like, yes, I am a Slytherin. And I'm like, and he's a Hufflepuff. And she was like, what? Like a Slytherin married a Hufflepuff? There's weird things going on in the world. Anyway, it was just funny because someone who was like in character, not like, you know, they didn't really have to be Harry Potter fans. She did say she was a Harry Potter fan. But, you know, it was funny that you can pick out that I'm Slytherin. And it's like an identifying factor of me that I'm Slytherin. But I'm not like a bad person. Like, don't think I'm a bad person because I'm a Slytherin. Because there's plenty of like decent Slytherin folk. It's just the way that my personality skews is that I do skew to be a Slytherin. Like, people think in real life, IRL, that I'm a little bit of a biatch. And I just think I just have resting bitch face. Like, I think that's what it is. But, you know, whatever. I like being a Slytherin. I'm proud to be a Slytherin. Question the third. Let's get off of this because I could talk about it for an hour. Question number 3. Who, exclamation point, I actually wrote that in there, was your favorite Doctor? So, obviously, for people who maybe don't know, I'm asking about Doctor Who. That's why it was exclamation point after the Who. My favorite Doctor is number 9, Christopher Eccleston, and there's a specific reason for this. I know a lot of people love David Tennant, and he was definitely a really good Doctor, and he was really funny, and he's really awesome, like, all around, like, guy. Like, everything he does I think is great. But when I first started getting into Doctor Who, I started with season 9. So it's one of those things, like, your first is always the one you compare everything else to. And I really like number 9 because I think he was different than a lot of the other ones. You know, he didn't wear a suit. He was like the Fonz of Doctor Who's. You know what I mean? He was like the Fonz of the Time Lords, definitely. So I like number 9. That's my answer. Chris Eccleston. Question number 4. This one, I don't even know why I torture myself by giving myself really hard questions. Number 4. If you could have dinner with any, like, fictional character from any of these geeky fantasy worlds, who would it be? Now, this was a really, really hard question. I put it in there because I'm like, that would be a really interesting answer to hear from people. But I couldn't answer it for myself. And I realized that the reason I couldn't answer it is because there's so many different ways you can answer this question. Like, let's be honest. As a geek girl, you can go, like, one of 3 different ways. Okay? With this is what I'm seeing in my head. The first way you could go is be like, I totally would want to, you know, hook up with, like, the hottest character ever from any fantasy world. So you know what I'm saying? Like, if you wanted to go that way, like, I'm choosing the hottest guy from my favorite fantasy-ish book, or, you know, not fantasy like sexual fantasies, but, you know, basically these shows are all that anyway. But anyway, you could choose, like, your, like, it guy, right? So I could be like, yeah, I totally want to have dinner with Khal Drogo, and then he could, you know, ravish me later in his tent. But, like, I'm like, I really don't want to go that way, you know what I mean? It's not, you're not getting anything out of it, except for, like, really awesome private moments with Khal Drogo. So we're gonna, you know, that's number 1 way you could go with this. The second one you can go with is be like, let's pick my favorite character who is someone I would love to talk to, right? Like someone who would be really interesting to meet, right? So you do something like, or I would do something like Sherlock Holmes, like Benedict Cumberbatch in, like, the new Sherlock Holmes season, because, like, you know, that would be really awesome. And then later on, he could ravish me later in his dirty apartment. No, I mean, so I'm saying, like, everything's going that direction. You know what I mean? He's really interesting. He's really funny. Not really intentionally funny, but, you know, he'd be really interesting to talk to and do other things with. My husband can't watch this video. But, you know, again, I don't want to go that way either. It's just like, I could have a good conversation with anybody. You know what I mean? Why does it have to be Sherlock Holmes? So the third way you could go with this, and it's like the way I would, like, normally lean, is that I would pick someone, like, maybe who's really old and really wise, right? So, like, a Gandalf or something. You know, I'm thinking, like, you know, someone really old and wise, Gandalf, maybe, like, an Aslan from Chronicles of Narnia, like, someone who, you know, knows a lot of stuff, and, like, I don't know, just someone that you could, like, talk to and be really wise, like Yoda, you know? But ultimately, it's like, again, how much are you going to get out of that dinner talking to them? You know what I mean? Like, are they really going to tell you anything that they haven't already told their, like, proteges? Like, is there anything Dumbledore really hasn't said that Harry Potter didn't learn about later? You know, same thing with Yoda. He tells people stuff. He talks backwards. But, you know, is he really going to say anything really interesting? And, like, Aslan, yeah, he's supposed to be like Jesus in the book. But, you know, am I really going to learn anything I couldn't learn from reading the Bible or something like this? And this is, like, the longest answer ever. So I figured it out, that I decided that if I was just going to have dinner with someone, right, and I just wanted to have a good time, that's what I was going to do. So I am choosing to have dinner with Falcor, okay? Because Falcor and me will eat whatever. It doesn't really matter what we eat. And then he could take me and we'll just ride around. Like, he could fly me around the world for a while. Like, we go to Paris. We could go, like, You know, we go to Japan. We go to like anywhere we wanted. You know, he could take me to like the North Pole, check on Santa, South Pole, check on polar bears, whatever's there. We could just fly all over and have a really great time. So if I could have dinner with anybody, it would be Falkor. Who cares? What do you feed a luck dragon? Who knows? But, you know, you just hang out with them. That would be my answer. I would go out with Falkor. Okay, number 5. I'm going to try to make some of these quicker. What is your gaming system of choice for you gamer girls out there? I'm a little bit of a gamer girl. I was more of a gamer girl back in the 90s when there was like Nintendo and things like that that were really like Nintendo. There's still Nintendo. But like I had the original Nintendo set, and then we had like Super Nintendo. Never got into Sega Genesis. I will say that my all-around favorite gaming system was probably the Game Boy. Like I had a Game Boy Color and I was obsessed with it. But, you know, now the Game Boys have switched to being like Nintendo DS, so my husband has a DS, and it's great and all, but I just like that littleness of the Game Boy, and that it was like in your hands, and it didn't have like too many bells and whistles, didn't have flip screens or whatever. So I know people are going to be disappointed by this answer, but I think my favorite gaming system is my iPhone. In all honesty, I really do, because I play games on my iPhone all the time. Not as much as like I would like, but it's all there. You know what I mean? I could say my laptop, like my Mac, but then people would be like, Macs don't have that many video games. You need a PC if you really want to play games. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm going to go with my iPhone. Lame answer, I know, but it is the thing I actually use the most. So that's why that it's like my gaming system of choice. There you go. Number 6, if you had a superpower, what would it be? I know what this answer is flat out. Okay, let's be really honest. There's a lot of awesome things that you could do. You could be invisible. Like being invisible on choice, like it's your choice to go invisible probably, would be really awesome. It would be really awesome to fly. There's a lot of really cool superpowers, reading people's minds, things like that. There's one superpower which I think is like the ultimate superpower because it gives you like more than one ability in one superpower, and that is telekinesis or psychokinesis, the ability to like move things, to interact with your environment without physically getting involved. So if I was telekinetic, I could like move things. Like I could just sit in bed and like things could come to me. I could fly all over the world. You know what I mean? Because think about like Jean Grey in X-Men. Like she was telekinetic. She could fly because she could like command the winds to do so. You know what I mean? So that's totally something you could do. And like, I don't know, like think about how like, what's his name? Magneto controlled metals, obviously. And he could fly technically because he would have like pieces of like metal, like he'd float on. So that's what I would want. I would want telekinesis. Because there's multiple ways that you can use that to your advantage. You could like, technically you could defend yourself with telekinesis, like throw bullets at people, throw like, I don't know, knives and stuff. You could stop people from attacking you because you can control their stuff. And you can fly. You can fly. You could do everything. Telekinesis, you could do everything basically. So I'm choosing telekinesis. Question number 7. What is your favorite fantasy world? Again, another really hard question because there's a lot of places in a lot of different movies and books that like I've imagined or you've seen them in movies or whatnot, and they're just described as being like the most beautiful places on Earth. And not really on Earth, but like some of the most beautiful places like in the universe, fictitious or otherwise. But when I really thought about it, there was one place that really had everything. Because a lot of times, you know, you think about like Lord of the Rings as being one of my favorite geek girl books, movies, everything. And it has some really awesome places like Lothlorien, which is like really my kind of place. It is like a secluded, beautiful forest, and people, the elf people, they live in the trees. You know what I mean? And it's beautiful. And I feel like that's like what I would like, but there's other places that really aren't that desirable to me. You know what I mean? There's not enough of the good stuff in, you know, the Lord of the Rings fantasy world for me to be like, yes, that's where I would like to live, in Middle-earth. No. If I had to choose one place, one fantasy world universe to live in, it would be Azeroth, which is the world of World of Warcraft, if you're not familiar with World of Warcraft. Really, World of Warcraft has some of the most beautiful places that I feel like you've really ever seen, like in video games, in books. It's got everything. Some of my favorite places, like, first of all, let's talk about like Dalaran. Is like the most amazing magical city in the entire world. Beautiful, amazing, not in the world, in Azeroth. Fake place. But then also there's places like the Howling Fjord, which is like, when I first went there in World of Warcraft, it knocked my socks off. It's like still the place that I remember when I went there the first time the most. Just like taking that boat and like landing at the dock and looking around. And it's like a mountainous wilderness area that's gorgeous on the water. Beautiful. Love it. Amazing. And there's so many other places in Azeroth that are just absolutely gorgeous. I mean, you talk about like Pandaria, you know, it's gorgeous, these places. Like the Night Elves where they start, I can't think of where they live, but their starting ground is really beautiful. Like the Draenei. I mean, everything, all of those places where they live is like gorgeous. I think Azeroth. Azeroth is the place. It's got it all. Everything is in Azeroth. So if I could choose a fantasy world, that would be the one I'd live in. Number 8. If you could be any fictional race, what would you be? Okay, another hard one, but not so hard. Look, I really love dwarves, okay? Because I feel like I actually like relate to them the most because I'm really short. I'm not super skinny. I'm incredibly hairy. Like, I could be a dwarf, right? I could. But then there's all those negative stereotypes about dwarf women. You know what I mean? We've seen Lord of the Rings. You know what I'm talking about. That there really are no dwarf women because they look exactly like men, because they have beards and stuff. And, you know, all that stuff. I just feel like, as much as I identify with dwarves, I would rather be an elf. And I know that's like the heart of like every, I don't know, the eternal struggle between dwarves and elves. But I would choose an elf. Because I just feel like, even though I don't like being tall, I will say I do love being short. I don't love being tall. They also have long hair and they have pointy ears, which is really cute. Pointy ears. And they live for a really long time, and they're normally inclined to like the magical arts, which is what I would want to do. But specifically, I was thinking about this, like if I could be any kind of elf, because, you know, there's tons of different elves in a million different fantasy worlds. I think I'd want to be a night elf. I'm going back to World of Warcraft here, but I think night elves, I could probably rock that purplish skin and definitely like that teal blue hair. Like, that would probably be what I'd want to be. And they're kind of like, oh, they live in the forest. I like that. I like that. I would be a night elf in general. Question number 8. Star Trek or Star Wars? It's the ultimate star question. My answer, although this is, again, all of these are not the easiest questions to ask, I know what the answer is. The answer is Star Trek. And some people may be really disappointed to know that I would prefer Star Trek over Star Wars. Star Wars is wonderful and awesome, okay? But Star Trek is the future. Star Wars was a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. You know, it's great and all, but it's not the future of humanity, and that's something I'm a little bit more attached to. So definitely Star Trek. There's plenty of Star Trek characters. Really, like, Next Generation is really what I'm talking about here. Although I do like me some Spock. I mean, I do love Vulcans in general. But, you know, characters in Star Trek, Next Generation, I really love Data. I know he's an android. I just love Data. And I also love Worf, okay? And my husband, you know, he looks like Riker, and he dresses up like Riker on Halloween. Don't tell him I told you that. If you went to his Instagram, you'd see. But he dresses up like Riker because he looks like Riker. Let's be honest. Mike looks like Riker. And he thinks I look like Deanna, which is the most amazing compliment. But the thing is like, as much as I love the whole, like, Inzadi, like Deanna Troi with Will Riker, I really loved Worf. Like, I'm really sad that Deanna didn't end up with a Worf, because there's really nothing hotter than that. Like, Worf is, I know he's a Klingon and they're weird, right? And they eat some crazy freaking food. But I really think that it's something with the hair and the facial hair. And he's so exotic and like a warrior. You know what I mean? I love Worf and Data. It's like a weird menage something in my head. But anyway, yeah, Star Trek, okay? Star Trek. I like Star Trek better, okay? The end. Now, to the ultimate question, number 10, the hardest question in the entire world. I, like, wrote the answers to this, like, 12 times and erased and, like, repositioned them. Top 5 geeky movies, TV, whatever. It could be books. I don't even care. Top 5. But I think it should just be the movies or TV shows. That's what I went with. Top 5 things. So I'm going to go from 5 to 1. So least of the 5, although if you're in my 5, let me tell you, this was like really hard for me to do. If you're in my 5, you should just be happy you were in my 5. And then we will end with my most amazing, number 1. Number 5, X-Men. I love X-Men. I'm not a superhero like a Marvel DC comic superhero person. There are many of those that I like. I do enjoy them. But in terms of superheroes, X-Men do it for me. The X-Men, love them. I loved the show, the comic show. What am I talking about? Cartoon. The cartoon. I love the cartoon. And the movies are great as well. Not really into the whole Wolverine thing. Sorry, Wolverine. But I do love X-Men. It tops. It's number 5. Okay. Number 4. Talking about a movie here. Never-ending Story. This, God, I love those 80s fantasy films. There's so many, and I'm going to do a video and or a blog post about my favorites. But Never-ending Story for me, like we said, Falcor, Luck Dragon, so many things that I liked about that movie. And I've seen all of them, like what is there, like 3 or 4 of them? They just keep going downhill. But number 1 was amazing. I love the idea, the entire concept, because as a child, I was a child reader. So I would have saved the Empress, just saying, okay? And by the way, Artax, let's talk about that real quick. Atreyu loses Artax in the swamp, and that was like the saddest movie of my life at that point. Take a moment of silence. Okay, stop, because I can't let this video get too long, okay? So number 4, Never-ending Story, okay? Love that movie. Love. Number 3, Harry Potter. Like I said, I'm a Slytherin, proud Slytherin. I love Harry Potter. One of the reasons this top 5 list has been really hard for me is because I'm into a lot of things, like a lot of different things. And it's kind of hard for me to choose things that are newer. Harry Potter to me is newer. It's been around long enough at this point that I feel like it stands the test of time, but it's kind of hard for me to choose newer things. But Harry Potter's definitely on there. Love all the movies. Have not read the books. The first one, I think I read most of it. Part of it, who knows. It's one of those things, I probably will end up reading them all. By reading, I mean downloading them on audiobook and listening to them. But Harry Potter to me is such an immersive world, and you just care about so many things that it definitely tops. It's in there. It's number 3. It's in the middle of this top 5 list. Number 2, Chronicles of Narnia. When I was little, this was probably the first series that I actually read to start to finish. And I read it at a very young age, and I would reread it all the time. Being a Catholic schoolgirl, let's put that aside. But yeah, Chronicles of Narnia was amazing. And when it finally came out in the movies, when I was like an adult, like in college, I think it was in college when the first movies came out, it was nice. But the books are more for me, like, what is the important thing? Like, if there's one book, like the first book I'm going to make my kids read is going to be Chronicles of Narnia. I'll probably read it to them before they can read. They'll definitely know everything about it before they ever read the book on their own. But Chronicles of Narnia, definitely up there. Absolutely love it. Love. Love. Number 1. This shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings. I watched those movies when they came out. Not really when they came out. I was like a reluctant Tolkien fan, I guess you'd say, whatever you want to say. It was out for a while. I never had to read The Hobbit when I was in high school or anything like that, or college. I watched the movies when they came out, probably when they got on HBO or whatever show. Like, I remember seeing Return of the King. I saw Return of the King in movie theaters in college, I think. So, yeah, so I think I saw that one. But most of them I just saw on like DVD or like rental, or we saw them because they were on TV or something. I started getting really big into Lord of the Rings in late college / probably after I graduated. I read the books in like a minute because I was so obsessed with the movies. There's so much about Lord of the Rings, I can't even get into it. Like, people who know me know that if you get me talking about Lord of the Rings, you will not be able to shut me up for a long time. There's things that, like, I can read a line in Lord of the Rings and just start bawling, crying. And not even, like, in the book. Like, I read, like, the index and freak out about things that are in the index. Like, if you've read Lord of the Rings and you've not read the entire index, like, the entire thing, you are missing so much of the story. Like, most of the good parts of the story are in the index. In fact, the movies are really more based on, like, the index than they really are on the books. So weird. So weird. So yeah, Lord of the Rings, number 1. 25 minutes for this video right now. We're gonna have to stop. But right before I stop, I'm gonna have to tag people. Kristen's doing this video. I'm tagging you, Kristen. You knew that already. I tag all of you because I can't even think of anyone's names right now because all I can think about is Lord of the Rings right now. So thanks for that. Thank you, Geek Girl Tag. I'm a geek girl. Proud of it. Proud of it. Do this tag if you're a geek girl. I tag you. If you're a little bit geeky, really majorly geeky, let your geek flag fly, geek girls. And I challenge you to wear something like this in your video. Like something like this. I've got like Disney ears and stuff like that. Animal ears, whatever. I want you to let your little bit of your geek flag fly when you do this video, because that's what it's about. Geek pride. Geek girl pride. Okay? The end. Like this video if you liked it. If you got to this point, you clearly liked it because I rambled. Like it. Send me a tweet about it. Send it to everybody you know. Seriously, everybody you know. Put it on your Facebook right now. Just take the link, drop it in your Facebook. Be like, everyone's got to watch this. And of course, leave me a comment if you have any questions. All the questions are going to be linked down below in the description box if you would like to do this tag, which you are going to do because I just told you to do it. And make sure to subscribe if you're not subscribed. If you're not subscribed, you better subscribe and make everybody you know subscribe. And do this video because I just told you to. Please. I think it would be amazing. The end. Okay? See you guys in the next video. Bye-bye! Everyone, it's Tuesday and you know what that means. Time for another Tuesday tip of the week in under 2 minutes. And for today's tip, I've got with me my key.